Every once in a while, a car comes along that manages to make the opposition appear old and stupid. Just such a car is this Honda Civic. A metamorphosis made all the more extraordinary by the fact that the Honda was always amongst the most conservative cars in its class. With some fantastic engines, a lively chassis, and that shape, the Civic is now one of the most sought-after cars in its class.
The 2005 Geneva Motor Show has to go down as something of a vintage event. Ferrari, BMW and Aston Martin all thought they'd garner the column inches with their F430 Spider, the M6 and the V8 Vantage. You'd have got very, very long odds on them being comprehensively trumped by this, a 5-door hatchback from Swindon. The Civic that arrived in UK dealerships had the same jaw-dropping effect on the British public. The average age of Civic buyers dropped by almost 20 years overnight. And whereas before the Civic Type R was the only car that you'd buy if you still had your own teeth, now the whole Civic range is fair game, and that's quite some achievement. There are 4 engines offered with the Civic. The entry-level one is the 1.4 litre petrol, then it steps up to a 1.8 litre petrol, and then there's the flagship of the range, which is the racy 2 litre Type R. And that engine's good for 197 horsepower. I think the best engine in the range though is the diesel engine. It's a 2.2 litre capacity unit, which is very, very big for a car of this size, and as a result it feels quite naughty when you give it a prod. It's got 139 horsepower, it'll get to 60 in 8.6 seconds and onto a top speed of 128 miles an hour. All Civics, even the 1.4, are very, very good to drive. They've got one of the best gear changes in their class, and they were the first car in the class to be fitted with 6-speed gearboxes right across the board. All of the engines are built in Swindon, bar that 1.4, which comes from Japan. Although this latest Civic is a fair degree smaller than its predecessor on the outside, it's even bigger on the inside, and although this might seem like Honda have warped the time-space continuum in some way, instead they've just used a few very clever engineering tricks. Honda moved the fuel tank in this car to the safest point in the car, right in the middle. It now sits on the cross member underneath the front seats, and the result is that you can now fold these rear seats dead flat. It also frees up an enormous amount of space in the back. In this car you've got 485 litres of luggage space, and the 3-door and the 5-door both have an identical capacity. The great thing about this Civic is that there's always something to catch the eye. There's this multi-layer 3-dimensional effect dash, there's a start button, metallic finishes, this sport model gets a leather-lined multi-function steering wheel. The only thing you've really got to watch out for is some of these metallic plastic finishes can look a bit tatty after a while. If you wear jewellery, they scratch rather easily. There seem to be more Honda Civic trim levels than it's possible to comprehend, but the most interesting ones are the Type S and the Type R. Standard right across the range are things like VSA stability control, multi-adjustable steering column, climate-controlled air conditioning and front-side and curtain airbags. At over £18,000 it is expensive, and discounts are hard to come by. Even the entry-level cars are a good deal pricier than their Ford or Renault equivalents. Still, I'd say that you get what you pay for. You can drive this 2.2 litre diesel quite hard and not get crucified at the pumps. If you're a little less Neanderthal with the throttle pedal, you'll get around 54 miles per gallon. Insurance ranges from Group 10 to 11, depending on what trim level you choose, and carbon emissions are 135 grams per kilometre, which makes this a prime target for company car user choosers. Depreciation is another area where the Civic excels. If you chose the Type R GT, that would retain 57% of its value after 3 years, which if you compared it to a Ford Focus ST, you get 45% from that. The Civic will be a little bit more expensive to service, so the Ford will claw back some in that regard. But once you've overcome the purchase cost of a Honda Civic, it's not exorbitant to keep on the road. The only problem with building a car with an appearance as extreme as this Civic is that it has the ability to alienate as well as attract. What's not up for debate is it's got this fantastic 2.2 litre diesel engine, build quality is brilliant, and reliability record is second to none. You probably won't see too many of these parked outside your local bingo hall, but I think that's all part of Honda's master plan. Sorry, Granny.